Welcome, everyone, to the CrossFit Games podcast. I'm your host, Chase Ingraham, and I have a very special guest with me, Mariah Moore, the director of the new yet old and long-awaited 2018 CrossFit Games documentary, The Ultimate Test. You are with us. It is coming out December 7th. I'm so pumped. I'm so excited to talk to you. I can't wait to talk about this documentary and let people know what is in store finally. So thank you for being here. And I believe we are during nap time. Is that correct?
Yep. They just went down about 10 minutes ago.
Oh, man. Twins? How old are they?
2. They turned 2 in September.
Oh, my goodness.
Crazy.
2. I can't imagine 2 at the age of 2. My daughter's about to be 2. And I remember my son being 2, and I don't know if I'm ready for another 2-year-old.
It's all perspective, though. Everybody's like, I feel like twins must be harder. I'm like, I have no idea if it is or not. Who knows? Our hard is our hard.
Yes, that's true. That's true. And I remember talking to my wife when she was pregnant, and it's like, okay, what if we just had twins, and then, we could have 2, and then we just stop. And then after we had our 1, I was like, what was I thinking? Like,
yeah, no.
But that's so cool. I can't believe they're 2 already.
Yeah, it went by really quick. The funny thing is, though, everybody says that. It's like, oh, you just, with twins, you're done, right? And it's like, well, yeah, kind of. But I feel like I kind of got gypped of experiencing that twice, Because it's like, I wouldn't say I loved being pregnant, but I think it was like, it's a pretty mind-blowing experience. And yeah, I wouldn't mind doing it again.
I mean, I have no context as far as like what the experience is like other than cheering from the sidelines. But my wife was very adamant about 2 being it because not wanting to go through that experience again. But that's really cool. Look, thank you for taking the time. I can't wait to get into this documentary. You directed this. Now, this has been a documentary that has been asked for obviously since 2018 ended, and a lot of things have happened in CrossFit and the CrossFit Games since then. I mean, I was just looking at it, like since 2018, what Matt was trying to win his 3rd, Tia just won and trying to go back to back. The whole landscape completely changes in 2019. We almost lose the games in 2020. We went back to Aromas, and now we're back to Madison, and now Matt's retired, and Tia's won 5, and it's just crazy how much has happened since 2018. And I think the big question right off the bat is, how long have you really been a part of this getting into production?
Oh man, pretty much since the day we got laid off. I was trying to get my hands on it. Tyson and I were both trying to figure out how to, get it made. And it was, conversations were happening for a couple of years. And then last year when everything started happening, it kind of, that conversation died down. And then I was approached earlier this year to bring it back to life. So that's been a work in progress since the day we got let go.
Man, that's wild. What did it feel like getting that phone call, getting approached to do this documentary?
It was scary but exciting. I mean, I knew I was capable of doing it. I knew we kept trying to get it, but I think there was part of me that felt like, I don't think this is going to happen. And so it was really exciting when I was asked to make it.
I can't imagine that feeling. It's like, it's the feeling of always asking for something, and then they're like, okay. I'm like, oh, wait, I thought I would just ask and get denied, and now I actually have to step up to the plate. And so obviously we've been waiting for this since 2018. You get the phone call finally, and you're talking to, is look, you got laid off with a lot of people, which was touched on in this documentary. And, I got the pleasure of seeing this. By the way, unbelievable job. Bravo to you and your whole crew. It brought back a lot of emotion I wasn't expecting to feel. Things that I had not forgotten, but it's crazy. As I said, all this list of 2018, all these things that have happened, and you captured the moment so beautifully. And then touching on really the world changing the day after the CrossFit Games was really staggering to see, because I forgot it was that soon. Because 2018, as you know, was we hold 2018 to a kind of a gold standard of what was possible and what was supposed to be the launching point of really exponentially taking things off in the sport, in the community, in media. And then it all gets taken away as what we thought was the launching pad for everything.
Yeah.
What was when did you actually get called back into the media side?
So I actually, I never, even though I was laid off in early 2019, I never stopped doing work for CrossFit. I just wasn't an employee anymore. So I've pretty much been consistently doing contract work for CrossFit, just a lot smaller projects because, crazy enough, the day Tyson and we both got laid off on the same day. It was Tyson's 40th birthday.
No, it was on his birthday. Come on.
And it was the day we had our first ultrasound scheduled.
Oh my!
We had just found out I was pregnant, so we literally we were like, hey, sorry, we're not going to be able to make this meeting for you guys to fire us. We have an ultrasound appointment. So we went to our ultrasound appointment, found out we were having twins.
Oh my!
Turned around, went straight to the office to lose our jobs, and then right after that went and drank beers with the 50 other people that lost their jobs and celebrated Tyson's birthday.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I can't imagine the emotion of what that day was like for either of you. I mean, Tyson's turning 40, you find out you are not only pregnant, but you are having twins. My goodness. And then you lose your job. I mean, is that the most emotionally draining day of your entire life? Maybe aside from actually giving birth of said twins?
Yeah, for sure. It was a roller coaster. That one's going to go down in history for us. For sure. But, it was, I've consistently done work. So even like after we got laid off, there was still stuff that needed to be done. A lot of the stuff was like smaller behind the scenes kind of stuff, not big projects, just because I wasn't in a place to take that stuff on, being pregnant and then welcoming twins. So yeah, I've pretty much been involved since the day I got let go.
What other things have you been involved with the media side, either prior to or since then?
Oh man. So, when we got let go, it looked like a lot of, I was doing a lot of editing with the, what did you call it? Like Hobart, like the movement workout videos, like on the white wall. Yeah. So we had a crew. We shot all of that in December before we got let go. So we were editing all those, and those still needed to be made. So that kind of stuff. Doing a lot of like small highlight promo stuff for the games, things like that. And then also doing a lot of behind the scenes of trying to help preserve all of CrossFit's historical footage. So just trying to figure out, working on that kind of stuff behind the scenes. Yeah. But
specific to 2018, I thought this was just lost. It'll be just one of those lost years, it's what is it? I think Bob Dylan's Lost Basement Tapes. Have you seen that documentary? It's fantastic. So apparently Bob Dylan disappeared. You can't do this anymore, right? But 20, 30 years ago, he just disappeared. In the highlight of his career, disappeared with his band. I think it was like 6 weeks in some small town. And they just sat in a basement in this random farmhouse and just wrote songs that they would release to no one. And someone found, they did it. It's called the Lost Basement Tapes. And they found them in like an auction in a desk drawer of all these lyrics that Bob Dylan wrote to songs they'd never made. And so they brought in these artists from all over the world, and they gave them the lyrics and say, make a song from his lyrics. And so I like it to some of the same things, because we kept hearing over and over that like they just weren't going to release it. Mm-hmm. What was the process of getting those back?
Oh man.
Do we have enough time for that?
It was pretty simple. It was like when we had shot and bagged, 95% of that film. And so it was all just living on a server up at the office in Santa Cruz. And so there's a couple things. Sorry if it's loud. We're in the garage, so I don't wake the kids up. I'm gonna let this truck pass. Yeah, it was like I had to go literally buy like a drive with like 100 terabytes worth of storage on it to go load up all of the footage we had shot and then figure out what interviews we still needed to capture and had to go out and get that kind of stuff. So it was actually pretty simple. It was like it was all just we had it all prepped. We had it all ready to go. We were ready to make that movie, and then the plug got pulled on it. Yeah.
How many interviews had you done prior to the plug getting pulled?
So we after the games, like Monday morning, after the games every single year, we try to get as many of the top finishing athletes seated as possible to do like their post interviews. And so we had captured a lot at the games that year.
So you
and
do a lot of those at the games?
Yeah.
Wow.
Monday.
Wow.
Yeah. So for this year, I started for 2021. I started interviewing, I think at like 7:30 a.m. And then we had athletes coming in and rotating, and we were there from about 7 a.m. to about 7 p.m. just doing nonstop interviews for 21. Craziness. Yeah. And we still had some interviews I had to go pick up. Yeah, but so then for 2018, so the changes, as you'll hear in the doc, happen literally the day after the games. Those changes start happening.
Which
So
blew my
within a couple
mind, by
weeks,
the way.
Yeah, craziness. People just don't realize what was happening. But yeah, so after the games, a couple weeks after the games, I found out I was getting pulled off the documentary. That I wasn't losing my job yet, but you're no longer going to be a part of the documentary anymore. Heber and Mars were going to continue it. But if you ask them, they kind of went in, like we had conversations where they're like, well, we're going to act like we're making it, but we have no idea if this is actually going to happen or not. And so they were able to go out for a few more weeks and get a few more interviews internationally. And so they had those, and then, yeah, so that was that. And then right after I got the rights for 2018, I had to go figure out who still needed to be interviewed, who we had missed. And so we did that. It was more of like Sean, Tommy, Boz, and Tia was one of the ones that we hadn't gotten. So
yeah, I saw no bullshit on Tia. I was like, okay, so that's pretty recent.
yeah. It's pretty mind blowing how much she remembered this many years later.
Well, that was going to be my question: is how much did people really remember from that, or did you have to show them anything or coach them through? Or
yeah, it was like Tia. I wasn't there for Tia's. I contracted that one out to Torrin Simpson, asked him to run out and grab that interview for me, and she just knew everything. It was crazy. Watching the interview, I was like, wow, how do you remember all these details? And then there was a couple other people that I had to interview that I was like, well, this happened then, and they're like, oh, that's right, So there's a lot of reminding. I mean, before we even got into the edit, I sat down and watched every single live feed from that year.
Oh wow, it was
just to remember what had happened.
For me, watching that was very special because it's some of the same thing. You see some video and it brings back an emotion that you had kind of forgotten at the time. So I thought that was really, really cool. What was the biggest hurdle in doing this 3 years? 3 years post, really, when it was scheduled to?
Making it relevant to now. That was the number one thing we asked ourselves was, how do we make this relevant now? How do we make this something that people want to watch, something that's not completely outdated or doesn't tie into, where we're at right now in the sport? So that was a big one.
How much does that tie into your goal setting out for that?
What do you mean by that?
Well, so you wanted to make it relevant. So how much, what was your big goal, your big why, your big reason of making this?
Man, I think that for me, it was pretty personal, because CrossFit and CrossFit HQ is very near and dear to my heart. And so I think that there was a lot of people thought a lot of things about what was going on internally that couldn't be further from the truth. And so I think it was personal for me to be like, hey, no, here's the perspective of us that were in it, going through it, And so I think it was important for me to like, I really wanted to showcase that, you know, that these are people that really care about this sport and this company and things like that.
And I think reading into that is some of the interviews you did with Dave, Justin Berg, and how those powers that be were just as effective as the leadership, I put that in quotations, in charge, making the decisions down the line. Is that
Yeah.
what you're talking about? You could see that in
Yeah.
the film. You really could. And you could really feel the personal touch that was in the documentary, having gotten to watch it, that it was all very personal. And you
Mhm.
forget how personal it is to everyone in their own special way, whether that's Justin, Dave, yourself, anyone from the media team, the athletes, the judges. I mean, here getting Boz's perspective, I thought was really cool. So I thought it was a great addition to the film itself.
Oh,
Boz
we
is
were
one of my
so
favorite.
stoked.
Yeah, he's one
Yeah,
of my favorite human beings.
we
So
were we were fired up about that. We were like, why have we not sat Boz down for these before? And it was just like, I seriously, we could probably just release. I think his interview was like 2.5 hours long, but it's just pure gold. I was like, we should just release this to the world just as is because he has so much good stuff to say.
that's just the Boz cut of the 2018
Yeah.
documentary.
Oh my God, he's just full of knowledge. I love listening to Boz.
And he has such a beautiful, different perspective than most other
Yes.
people do. I think maybe different than anybody, because it's not like he's in a different position per se than any of us are relative to the competition, but the way Boz perceives it and the way he
Mhm.
articulates what he experiences and how he looks at those things, I think is different than anybody else in there.
Oh, I agree. I agree. I think that he took the documentary to a whole new level for sure.
How long does it take to make something like this?
Usually,
That said all you needed. That sigh. That's all we needed to hear.
it's you know, people ask me this, and I'm like, well, um, I feel like we've always done it in a very unrealistically fast, you know, like we do it very quickly. So usually, like back in the day when we had multiple directors on it, it took us from the day, you know, from when we got back from the games to we would deliver the film in December. So it was like a few months to edit. But then we were all out shooting all year. For this, I really got going on it in early May. Um, and we wrapped up, completely finished the film in mid August.
And you
So
said
it's
multiple directors. Is this the first solo one that we've had?
no, this is the first like games one. Heber Cannon was the solo director on Rich Froning,
Oh, yes.
Froning film.
The unofficial 2014 CrossFit Games documentary.
Yeah, exactly. No, there actually was a 2014
There
games
was a
doc.
kind of a behind the scenes series, wasn't there?
Yeah, no, there was a whole documentary because Ian Wittenberg did it. I think it's on
Oh,
YouTube.
I've seen a lot of those are I love the longer ones. All the
Yeah.
YouTube ones. Yeah, I know exactly what you're
Uh-huh.
talking about. Those were great.
Yeah.
That was really some of the first like big behind the scenes stuff too that
Oh my.
Ian would
Yeah, I
always
feel
get.
like yeah, Ian. I feel like Ian set the gold standard for that behind the scenes kind of content.
Oh, I miss that guy. Good dude.
He co-edited 18 with me. It's been awesome to work with him again.
Yeah. Gosh, that's great. That's great to hear. How with respect to that is how many different moving parts and people are involved with the documentary like this?
Oh my gosh, so many,
But
so
list them
many.
by
It's
name. Don't leave anybody out. I'm just kidding.
oh my
you can
gosh,
we can give a we
I'm
can give
going
like a
forever.
5-person range.
Yeah, I actually feel like it kind of makes me like upset that it's like, oh, Mariah Moore owns this film. It's like, no, I might be the only person that has my hands in literally everything, but it's an entire crew of like all of these people that if they weren't there playing the parts that they play in the making of this movie, like this movie wouldn't be made. It's crazy. It's an entire crew of probably, I mean, the people that are really, really hands on, it's probably about 5 to 10. And then just you get the extensive crew of probably like 50 people that are doing other parts and pieces of it.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But when you look at it and you just I look at the detail and the stories you're telling, I mean, and the music to match the emotion of the moment, I think is such an underrated skill set to have. The way you guys would capture that with the video footage with the overlay of the the voiceover and then the music and it was just masterful. I thought you did a
Thank
wonderful
you.
job with that.
Thank you.
Things particular to the film, it was something very special to see people you didn't forget about, but people you forgot had such a major impact on that year as far as athletes, staff, volunteers. I thought that was something very cool to see that, especially on the athlete side. What was it like for you seeing, watching this take place and then seeing some of the old faces and hearing the old calls? What was that like for you, just reliving?
Oh man, it was cool. There was a lot of stories that I forgot happened. And it was like, oh, that's right. Like that funny moment happened or things like that. It was cool to get to watch rewatch Brent and Pat like finish the games because at that up until we hadn't seen it in 2019, those crazy cuts happened and they weren't able to finish the games. And then in 2020, only 5 people got to proceed. So it was actually really cool to see, though some of fan favorites really back in the mix, and relive that again. So that was fun.
I mean, the last time we saw Sarah in competition, she didn't even finish. I
Yeah,
forgot
yeah,
about that. And you
exactly.
said that Annie and Catherine's and the Cara Saunders with the Tias, and
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
thought that was that was something special to see and really get an appreciation of what we haven't had really since 2018. Because as much as things have changed, you watch this documentary and you're like, man, I forgot how lucky we were in the
Yeah.
moment. And it's not that we ever took advantage of that or let's see, didn't appreciate it in the moment, but it's one of those things is like until it's gone, you really forget how important it was and how special it was. You getting to be more behind the scenes than most people and spending so much time in this.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Dave Castro gets a bad rap from the community?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that was another goal of mine with the film is he's not, I mean, when you watch it, well, I don't want to give anything away. My goal was that I wanted to humanize him because I think that the people like ourselves that are lucky enough to know him outside of the CrossFit Games know that he's a very different person than what people perceive him as.
And what he
And
presents on Instagram, we'll
and
say that.
yes, absolutely. Absolutely. But it's all I feel like he's inserting drama into the competition to keep things interesting. It's the way that I look at Dave is I look at him as he's a creative. The games are his canvas. And so he's got to fill it up and he's got to give it drama and spice and like all the things, right? All the flair. And so when it's lacking something, he fills that gap, and so it's like that's what I really wanted to portray is it's like at the end of the day this guy's a mastermind and he's not like some evil mastermind. He's actually a guy that feels really deeply about this work of art that he's created. So
I think that's a wonderful way to put it with the blank canvas in artists is that I do believe, artistry can be personified and exemplified in many different ways. It's not just music or painting or pencil. And I feel like
mm-hmm.
it sounds really silly, but I do really feel that the way Dave programs and molds the CrossFit Games as a sport entertainment and real like this symphony of fitness is
Mm-hmm.
something that's very masterful and artistic. And I feel like people don't give him enough credit for how hard that is and really don't really know how great he really is behind the scenes.
Yeah, yeah, he's a huge part of things and he's in a lot of ways I feel like he's the glue.
Absolutely.
So I have a tremendous amount of respect for him and what he does for sure.
Yeah, me too. Except when he makes me do things like the one thing he tried to make me do at the 2018 games was he tried to make me demo the handstand walk course.
What?
I was like, absolutely not. A, Dave, I'm at the desk. B, that's what you have a demo team for. And I'm not going about to walk out into the Coliseum and embarrass my ass in front of 30,000 people. So
That's
you
like
get
exactly what he wanted you to do.
exactly. So he does a great job of also, keeping us on our toes from time to
Oh,
time.
for sure.
Um,
For sure.
Another thing I really loved about this documentary is that I feel like Laurel Horvath finally gets her due.
Yes,
She
I agree.
she never got it from 2018 because we really never could. She had a rough 2019 and 2020. And then in 2021, where she absolutely destroys it, aside from Tia Toomey, never got it while she was at the games.
Yeah.
And not too much in other things that I've seen so far. So it was you guys, I was really pleased to see that you gave her due in this documentary.
Yeah, and what's actually panned out great is because when we showed up for the games this year, I was just coming off of delivering like the first rough cut of the edit. Like I had been in that footage for months, working on it. And so I was like used to looking at Laura Horvath's face every single day. And so immediately from day one, I gravitated towards her because I was in the back. I did behind the scenes with the women this year. And so I talked to her from day one, like afterwards. I was like, wow, that panned out great. And it was just because I was so used to like listening to her footage and her interviews and highlighting her in 2018 that like immediately she was somebody that I covered in 2021. And it was like, well, that's perfect. That panned out perfectly.
Couldn't have been better. Couldn't have been better.
Yeah.
How hard is it to whittle this thing down? I mean, you said like terabytes of information. How many hours of footage do you get from the games, or did you have from the CrossFit Games in 2018?
I couldn't tell you in hours, but I could tell you it was about 50 to 60 terabytes of footage.
So for those that don't have any clue what that computes to,
it's a lot. It's a lot.
It's a lot. It sounds like a big number. But with that information in that data storage that you have, which is an absurd amount, by the way, I am with you, is that it might not be hours, it's like days of footage. How hard is it to whittle it down to 2 hours?
Very, very, very hard. It's very easy to make a 3-hour rough cut. It's very hard to get it close to 90 minutes. There's this term that we use. It's called killing babies. It's awful, but what it means is like essentially you get to this point where you have a cut and you have to whittle it down even more, and so you have to start throwing things out that it's like you're emotionally attached to, or it's like, oh, such a good storyline, I don't want to have to get rid of this, but we're trying to fit this time frame of 90 minutes, so we're cutting out all this stuff that's like, it gets really hard. You start pulling your hair out over it. It's pretty gnarly.
I can't imagine it. I know that's a part of the process because I've done similar things with other parts where it's like you whittle it down. You're like, oh, this is easy. Scrap it. And then you're like, oh, this is still 4 hours long.
Yeah, exactly.
I have to cut half of this out. And you're right. I mean, as crazy as the term sounds, it's like you have such an emotional attachment to what you've created, and now no one is going to see it. I mean, I don't want to say ever, but still. I feel like that's why there's director's cuts now, because even directors of feature films don't want to do that. So they make a 6-part Justice League thing for HBO.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and movies are getting longer. I feel like, how long was Dune? Oh my God, it was like almost 3 hours.
Is it? I haven't got to see it yet because, Breaking Away, as you know, Breaking Away is tough with kids, but.
Oh yeah, it took Tyson 3 sittings to watch it. It was so damn long.
Oh, that sounds about right. I think we got a babysitter to watch Endgame for Avengers, so that was. What are you guys gonna do? It's like, we're gonna go watch a movie in a movie theater. I
can't wait to do that again. You know what? The last movie that I saw in theaters was, God, I think it was the last Star Wars movie that. So it's been like 2 years since we've gotten to go out and watch go see a movie in theaters.
Oh man, and you could have saw a better one, but that was the last one, huh?
That was the last one. That was the last one.
Oh, when things that I want people to let's say bait them into watching this is there's so many things that I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot about that. The crit race to start off the weekend. When you watch it from the sideline, like I called it Dead Man's Turn. Do you know the corner I'm talking about? Right?
Where everybody was crashing.
Where everybody was. I was just covering the teams that year, so I was like, listen, I'm gonna go to this corner, and I know exactly what's going to happen in this corner, because I ride road bikes. I know how not easy this is. So I stood there and I watched all of those crashes that are on the film. I forgot how crazy that first event was.
Oh, it was epic.
And then the way you guys covered it, like all the, the drone footage and just, I was sweating watching the first 15 minutes of the documentary. That
Yeah,
was
that was a fun one.
crazy. The behind the scenes carnage of the marathon row. I don't think anybody has any idea. It gave such a great perspective of what the athletes are going through during and after events. I thought you guys did a great job with that.
Yeah, I think it's funny because it's like we have an inside perspective because we spend time with all the athletes, right? Where people are like, oh my God, it must be so cool to go to the games. And it must be so cool. But like the perspective that we get is these people are miserable.
Yeah.
They are not having a fun time.
That's the thing. It's like, oh, this looks amazing. I was like, are you sure? Because
Yeah, no.
they are not having an amazing time. This is an
No.
actual test of fitness that Dave Castro has assembled to make sure people want to be here, not just want to work out, that want to be here.
Yes.
The battleground, I forget all these events. Battleground, the stuff you guys have there was unbelievable. The clean speed ladder, I thought when I was watching that live, I think that's the loudest I've ever heard. For sure, the Coliseum, when all those things were going, and you guys had some great stuff with Matt there. I mean, chaos.
Oh, I loved chaos.
And that's the thing too, is I'm looking at all these events that they had programmed, and you just forget how great the programming was, period.
Oh my God. The programming was so good that year. I think everybody, I don't know what people's opinions are after 21, but up until 21, I think everybody sat there and very confidently said that that was probably the best programming was in 2018. It was so good.
I think 2018 from top to bottom was the greatest year of programming there's ever been. Open,
it was so good.
Regionals, CrossFit Games. I mean, you list off some of these events that were programmed that year, and from start to finish, it's not just that we lost 2018, so we're nostalgic about it. It's the fact that 2018 was legitimately that great.
Oh, it was so good. And that's another thing too that like I think that I really wanted to showcase was that there were people that were putting a lot of effort into putting on this epic show in 2018, and what the community doesn't realize is it's because they knew what was going to happen. They knew what was coming, and so they I mean, even just talking to Tyson about it, because I remember at the games that year, he was taking the entire media crew to dinner every single night, which was not normal. And I was like, why are you taking everybody to dinner every single night? And it was because he knew that this was probably the last time we were going to be able to have this epic media crew, the same exact team that we've, done this year after year after year with.
What should you know then?
Not very much. I think that we knew things were happening, but we didn't know what. I even remember Heber and Mars and I went out to a couple of the athletes like a week before the games. Like I went out to Tia and Shane, and Heber and Mars, I believe, went out to Katrin and maybe Matt. I don't remember who it was. But we turned out the last 2 Road to the Games episodes like a week before the games. We did it in a couple days. It was pretty crazy. But I remember we were there really, really late one night, and Heber was editing the outro of one of the episodes. And I was like, dude, we got to go home. Like, it's so late. And I remember he made a comment of, well, this might be the last thing I make for CrossFit, so I'm going to make it good. And that was like the kind of perspective that we had. It's like, we didn't know what was happening. We didn't know, we heard the rumblings. And so we were just kind of like, we kind of put our all into that stuff, because we were like, well, this might be the last thing we do for CrossFit, so we're going to make it good. But that comment of his always stuck with me.
And as Justin said in the trailer that you guys released, was this notion that everything was going to change and this could be the last year happened in March during the Open. And how they kept it quiet that long, one, is amazing. 2, even though that's like a really crappy thing that was happening, it kind of makes you feel good that those that were in that circle and then trying to do this, like, had that much respect of keeping it quiet so that people can enjoy what it was. There's almost like a weird sense of, I don't know.
Well, I think even more than that, I think that it was less of, I mean, yes, they were keeping it quiet, but I think that something that nobody talks about is that they were doing so much behind the scenes to ensure that the games continued. There was a lot of unknowns, surrounding it. And so I think that there was a lot of work being done on their parts to save the games, essentially.
And that's really, I think, in the middle of this film, at least for me watching that, you start things off with that notion, right? The voiceover with Justin, that we do see that in the trailer. That's about how this thing begins.
Yeah, don't give away too much.
Yeah, I'm not. And in the whole middle of this, I forget that that's even a thing. Like what you guys were able to do, at least for me watching this, was totally just like brought me in back to the booth I was sitting in for 5 straight days, the emotion that I was feeling while I was there, and the emotion of seeing it happen again, and then realizing that, oh yeah, this could be the end of things. It's like we said, like your world changed on a Monday.
Yeah,
it's pretty wild. How it was, man, it was a very emotional roller coaster from start to finish. And that's just me seeing it for the first time. So obviously I'm going to have new emotions. What's it like for you after you said you started this in May? Of course, you've been living it since 2018 in some form or fashion. Yeah. What is it like for you seeing it? Have you got to see it all start to finish of your final cut?
Yeah, too many times.
Too many times?
Yeah, I've had to watch it too many times because you have to watch it over and over and over again to make sure that you don't have any flash frames or dropped audio, or making sure the graphics are correct. And so I've just watched it over and over and over and over again. I'm very proud of it, but I don't ever want to have to watch it again.
That's fair. That was going to be my question of that. But you said you take days of footage, you whittle it down to your 3 or 4 hour. Okay, now we got to just crush this can even further than we really do want to. How hard is it to finally say that's it?
Oh man, you hit a deadline. I think that's what happens.
You basically just get your hands taken away from you, and it's like, okay, someone tells you that it's it.
Oh yeah, because then after that, I don't like to watch it again, because then I sit back and I'm like, oh, I should have done this differently, or oh, I should have done that, or and so I feel like I could continue to work on it for years.
Okay, so the release date is December 7th.
Yeah.
And where is it going to be released to?
Currently, iTunes and Amazon that I know of. It should be going to more VOD platforms. We'll have more information on that. I don't have solid info on that quite yet.
And then there's always the question of, I didn't know this, is like, even though it's, say, a digital platform, in different countries, it gets released in different ways. Is that true too?
Yeah. Yes.
How does that work?
So it's going to just licensing, and where like where the distribution companies are able to get it to whichever VOD platform is available in whichever country. And so it's like, I think there's a limited, I don't know exactly how many, but like Amazon is US. I think it goes international upon release, but I think the pre-order right now is for the US only. And then iTunes, there's a whole list of where it's available internationally. That list will grow after release. It's just currently available. I don't even remember how many countries it is. I think it's like over 50 countries right now where it's available for pre-order. So hopefully we'll get it on to as more countries as soon as the movie gets released.
Well, it's very exciting. What are you most proud of about this film?
Oh man, I think that I'm most proud of finally being able to showcase everyone's hard work from that year. again, it's a very personal film for me in that sense, because I know all of the people that worked very hard behind the scenes, and then it just got canned. And so finally being able to bring their hard work back to life and get to share it with the world, I'm very proud that I've gotten the opportunity to do that.
Well, after seeing this for the first time, I think you should be very proud of what you guys have done. I think you did
Thank you.
a masterful job retelling a story that the community has been dying for, begging for, and hoping for. And of all that anticipation, I think there can be a nerve-wracking experience of releasing something that everyone has been asking for. And I
Yeah.
think without a doubt in my mind, and obviously I've been around a little bit and a part of a few of these, is I think people will get what they want and more out of this documentary. I thought you did a beautiful job, and I thank you for all your work in getting that done, because this is something that has been special to me, because I was a small part of it from the media side, not directly tied to this documentary, but 2018 holds a special moment for me in time, and especially with CrossFit, the CrossFit community, and the CrossFit Games. And being able to be here in this position now with you, I think is some weird way a weird product of what happened that year. So of all the things that did happen as we get further into the future of the sport, I feel like things are getting better. And that was and that's part of, I think, some of this is tipping the cap and paying homage to what we did, and also turning a bright eye to the future of CrossFit. And on the media side is what are some of the things you're looking forward to going forward into the 2022 season?
Oh man.
Without
I'm
giving any
excited to
secrets away.
What?
So without giving any secrets away, obviously.
Well, 21 for starters. Can't wait to
Okay. Is that going to
really
be a
get in on
thing?
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All
21.
right.
Yeah.
Sweet.
We have that bagged, and we're in the middle of production on that. I'm actually juggling both films right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, this will be nice to get off your plate so you can focus on 21. So 21,
Yes.
there's a documentary coming out for 2021.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yep.
Gosh.
Yeah.
That's so exciting.
Oh man, it's gonna, like, I think, honestly, I think 21 has the makings to be the best film that CrossFit will have ever put out, for sure. Just because the emotions were crazy this year for everyone.
I tell you what, someone had asked me my thoughts on the end of the season in the games. And for me, by far, without question, the most emotional CrossFit Games I've ever been a part of.
Oh, by far.
It's not even
by
close.
Far. No, we had some of the most emotional interviews after the games this year with athletes that I never thought would be as emotional as they were. It's crazy. It's amazing. And I think it all stems from a place of, I think we all felt it. We were all just so happy to be back, you know? I think that we all were just so grateful to be back in Madison, to be doing the games. Sorry. And so, yeah, and I think the athletes felt that too. It was a very emotional year.
I can't wait to see what you guys do with that, because I was just a mess. And a lot of it for me, and I believe that it tails off of watching what you put together in the 2018, was all of these athletes. And as you look at them from the outside, characters or figures or heroes to some people, you got to see them in a raw state in 2018 that you kind of forgot about seeing them in 2021. So say watching Annie, what she went through in 21, and then seeing her back on film in 2018, I was like, wow, look how far we've come since then. And look at what's happened. And what happened in 21 was, you're right, I was unprepared for that. And if you ask Sean Woodland during the Scott Pinchik final event, when it was over, it was the first time I had to bow out of broadcasting. I just
really,
I couldn't. I was a mess. I was an absolute mess. And I had people texting me. They're like, I heard you say I'm sorry on the broadcast, because Sean looked at me and I just said I'm sorry. I can't. I don't have anything to contribute. So I'm excited to see what you do in 2021. Before we take off, how much have you learned from what you did for the 2018 that you are building off of for the 2021?
Oof. I don't know. It's probably a really boring answer. I've learned more about like how like the behind the scenes, because the way that like work was delegated between all of the co-directors back in the day when I was still on these films. There's a lot of stuff that I didn't touch behind the scenes that I'm now having to handle by myself. That I'm like, whoa, this is mind blowing having to do all of this. But other than that, I think we've gotten really good at telling really damn good stories. And so it's just exciting to be able to do that, to continue to do that.
Well, I'm excited. I can't wait to see what you guys have involved there, especially with you promoting as maybe one of the best you'll have ever done. Because as far as I'm concerned, this is one of the best you've ever done up to this point. So if it's better than 2018, I can't wait to see what you have in store. But before we get to that, December 7th, go download The Ultimate Test, the 2018 CrossFit Games documentary, directed by Mariah Moore. Thank you so much for joining the show, and I can't wait to see this take off in December.
Thank you.